AI's prophet of doom warns superintelligence means extinction and says shut it down. Zoom's CEO and founder Eric Yuan wants fewer, smarter meetings with AI notes, voice commands, and avatars. A Florida realtor goes viral by roasting mansions and still closes deals. Utah's Governor Spencer Cox urges Americans to disagree better after Charlie Kirk's killing. And a study of 88,000 people links irregular sleep to get this 172 diseases. Consistency matters as much as the hours. Welcome to Filtered with TJ Walker. Hi, and welcome. Thanks so much for joining me today. This is Filtered with TJ Walker. Every day we look at the top business stories, technology stories, and culture stories around the US, around the globe, and then filter it through the lens of communication skills, personal development skills, all with the goal of making you more successful, your personal life and your professional life. Let's dive right in to issue one, the AI warning. The man once hailed as the godfather of artificial intelligence is sounding the alarm. Jeffrey Hinton, who left Google last year, says the rapid march toward artificial intelligence could spell humanity's end. According to the New York Times, Hinton warned that machines could become more intelligent than us and take control. He compared the danger to nuclear weapons, arguing you can't uninvent them, you can only try to contain them. Experts are split. Some agree urgent regulation is needed, while others see Hinton's doomsday tone as overstated. But with government scrambling to set AI rules, his message cuts through. Humanity is not ready for what it is building. So it's not just Hinton, it's other experts on AI now. So where do we go with it? What's the real message? There are more and more AI experts, and by that I mean people who've been working seriously in the academic and the technology fields for decades, saying we can't control this thing. The genie is out of the bottle. We have to stop, 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 stop. Here's the problem. This is not nuclear bombs. Nuclear bombs are so expensive to build. There are so many things like enriched uranium that can be heavily regulated, that you can't just go down to the drugstore and buy. It's possible to stop the proliferation of nuclear bombs in a way that it's simply not possible to start AI or to stop AI. So what does this really mean? I don't know. But to simply say, let's stop all research isn't going to work. Let's dig a little bit deeper here. So it's not just Hinton, it's a lot of other AI experts are coming forth on almost daily basis saying, oh, we have a real problem with AI and that it cannot be stopped. Let's step back. If you're not following this issue, the idea is once artificial intelligence gets to a general level of artificial intelligence, it can think generally across disciplines and not just answer a question. It will become smarter than human beings. And when that happens, it can think faster, it can innovate more, and it can do whatever it wants. And people say, well, can't you just pull the plug? Well, if you're really smarter than a human being, you would figure out a way to solve that problem. You would have multiple sources of power. You would have a switch designed to look like an off switch to fool a stupid human. So it is not as simple as pulling the switch because a general artificial intelligence computer will be able to figure out how to have multiple energy sources. So the easy answers are not really easy, it turns out. What's the average person to do with this? I can't think of anything other than to figure out how to use artificial intelligence better for your own business, for your own life, for your own career, to make life easier for you. Now, I'm using it myself every single day. I use AI. Once I've found legitimate journalistically created stories, I have AI process it, rewrite scripts, shorten scripts, streamline for me. I'm a real person here. I don't have my AI clone here conducting this show, although I could. I think the only thing any of us can really do is learn how to use AI ourselves. Certainly vote for politicians and advocate policies that try to restrict and regulate AI. But I have to tell you, I'm not hopeful about that. It's extraordinarily difficult to regulate something where the cost for the means of production go down every day. The cost of making a nuclear bomb, they're not going down anytime soon. It has been an amazing success story for the United Nations, for the major nuclear powers of the world to essentially stop proliferation of nuclear weapons over the last 70 or so years. And it's been a huge success that they have not been used to start World War III. The same things, the same safeguards simply cannot easily be put into place for artificial intelligence. So my only recommendation is learn how to use it yourself every day. And I realize that doesn't solve all the problems, but it's really the best any of us can do. We're going to switch now to StoryTube. But first, hello to my special friends on TikTok. Hello to my friends on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, Twitch, and all the other platforms. This is a new show. It's less than 2 years old. Not 2 years. It's less than 2 weeks old. It's Filtered with TJ Walker. A little about me. I'm an expert on communication skills and personal development skills. Someone wrote to me just this morning saying, "You're not a good journalist." Well, I'm not a journalist at all. I am an expert on communication skills and personal development skills. That's what I've devoted my life to. I've trained more than 12 million student enrollments in my online courses in every country in the world other than North Korea that I know of. Maybe a few North Koreans slipped in from time to time. But that's my experience. I train people in person and online on how to communicate effectively. So I'm an expert at discerning messages, crafting messages, delivering messages, communicating messages. And that's what I'm trying to do right here to improve your life, to improve my life, and to form a community where together we can not just learn about the news and doom scroll and get bummed out, but learn something that makes us better and more successful. So that is what we're all about right here. Let's hop right into issue 2 today. Zoom's transformation. Eric Yuan, the founder and CEO of Zoom, says meetings need to change. And soon. Yuan told the Wall Street Journal that people should spend far less time in live calls and let AI do the heavy lifting. He envisions a future where AI attends most meetings, takes notes, and delivers only the key takeaways to human workers. You don't need to join every meeting, Yuan said. AI can summarize it for you. Now, Zoom was once a pandemic lifeline. It's now under pressure to prove it can innovate beyond endless video calls. Yuan is betting that fewer meetings plus smarter tools will keep Zoom essential in a crowded AI race. Okay, so what's the real message here? The guy who created Zoom is smart with technology, but I don't know if he knows anything about what makes a meeting special. He's saying attend fewer meetings, just have your AI do it, summarize for you. Well, if all Zoom meetings are nothing but AIs talking to each other, why bother? Just send an email. Let's dig a little deeper here. You can't expect everyone to be good at everything. I'm not good at everything. In fact, most people are not good at anything other than the one thing they devote their primary professional focus to. I'm good at really just one thing, communication and personal development skills. So I don't want to fault this founder of AI looking at everything through the lens, the founder of Zoom, looking at everything through the lens of AI and Zoom technology. But the idea that organizations should have more and more meetings, and yet no human being actually shows up because the AI can get the transcript and summarize it for you, it does really raise the question, why bother having the meeting? Let's step back a minute. As a human being and as a communications expert, to me, the importance of a meeting is when actual human beings can speak to another human being, ask questions, answer questions, to truly put a spotlight on what is most important. Spoken communicate, and that's what a meeting is. It's a venue for spoken communication. Spoken communication is a great way of letting people know, here's what I think is important. It's not really a great way of conveying lots of facts, lots of data, lots of details. If you want to do that, send an email, write a book. I got a book on how to make AI clones I've written behind me. That's the way to learn how to do it. I've got a book on public speaking and media training I've written behind me. If you want to learn all the facts, buy the books first. But if you really want to learn the skill, then you can hire me or someone like me to meet with you on Zoom or any other platform, or better yet, in person. And there's a high degree of interactivity. It's the interactivity that makes a meeting a meeting. But if one avatar is having an AI voice putting out information and another avatar is listening to it, summarizing it, boiling it down, and then emailing it to the name attached to that avatar, why bother? Nothing real is happening. Now, maybe at some point, your own avatar can be programmed to ask questions as you would. I haven't seen that happening yet. And without that ability to truly interact and dig deeply, I don't know that the meetings on Zoom are going to have much value. I do like what Jeff Bezos gets a lot of criticism, much of it deserved, but Jeff Bezos is famous for having meetings where they got to quite often end in 15 minutes. It's got to be a small group of people, no more than enough people who could finish 2 pizzas. And you're not allowed to show data on PowerPoint slides. You have to give people a memo, a 2-page memo. They got to read the memo before the meeting can start. If we're going to be following rules on meetings, I would much rather follow the Jeff Bezos model than this CEO of Zoom. Now, Zoom, by the way, and I don't mean this as a knock, their stock price is down 80% since the all-time highs during the pandemic. That was impossible to sustain, but you have to give Zoom a lot of credit. Remember Skype? Well, guess what? No one else does either. Skype was the granddaddy of this industry, and they're pretty much gone, or there's a tiny little semblance of one. Zoom destroyed them. Zoom innovated more. They made it easier to deal with, and they really did become a brand name that became an industry name, kind of like Kleenex. So you do have to give a lot of credit to Zoom. I do use Zoom, although I use my own meeting room that I have on StreamYard, since I stream live to you every single day on all social media platforms, including LinkedIn. So I personally don't use Zoom much, but I do, and I have a professional account. So Zoom's not going away anytime soon. But the real lesson, I think, here is don't take advice from technologists on how to speak like a human being. Take advice from people who actually speak a lot as human beings. Now, you can have great technical skills and be a good communicator. Jeff Bezos is a good communicator. He's done a fantastic job of communicating his vision for the future to investors for the last 30 years. So even though he's a technologist, he's done a fantastic job of communication. He's really, I think, someone who should be more of the role model for you and me when it comes to how to run meetings. Want a shortcut to powerful communication skills? Download the TJ Walker Success Library, 5 of my best-selling books for only $9.95. Go to tjwalker.com/books. Instant access, big impact. I've had entire YouTube channels wiped out overnight, so if you enjoy this show, don't lose track of me. The safest way is my newsletter, substack.com/@TJWalkerSuccess. Sign up for free and you'll get exclusive commentary, live session alerts, and first access to new tools. Again, that's substack.com. Just search for TJ Walker or go to substack.com/@TJ Walker Success, your direct line to everything I do. We are back, issue 3, Florida Realtor Comedy. In Florida, Real estate agent Brianna Banaski is selling $1 million homes by making fun of them. According to the New York Times, her TikTok tours lampoon luxury excess with profanity, sarcasm, and punchlines. One clip shows her collapsing at the thought of a $3.5 million price tag for a house. Another has her shouting, "The closet is where rich people store their tax write offs." The videos routinely rack up millions of views. Banaski has already sold homes through her viral comedy and signed with a Hollywood manager. Her message: she can laugh at the wealthy and still get them to buy. What's the real message here? If you're telling yourself, oh, it's too late to start a YouTube channel or a TikTok channel or a podcast, everything's been done. No, there are great ideas coming out every single day. There's a Florida realtor making fun of rich people and big mansions. And guess what? She's selling a ton of real estate. The real message here is always look for different ways of communicating. Try to put in a little humor where you can. That brings an audience, that brings more economic opportunity for you. Let's dig a little deeper here. Now, I don't have many regrets in my life. I've had a good, fun, rich, rewarding life and a lot of fun things I've done in my career and life. But one regret I do have, frankly, is not really trying to master the art of stand-up comedy. It would make me a better creator online, a better communicator, a better speaker. Now, I try to put in humor from time to time, but I don't kid myself. No one confuses me for a stand-up comic. I did about 30 years ago take a stand-up comedy class by a not very good comedian, and I really never felt like I got my material to the point where it would even be plausible to do an open mic. So shame on me. That one is on me. I urge you, regardless of your, there's frankly no reason why I couldn't do that today. Go take stand-up comedy class and start appearing in open mics. Here's the thing about comedy is at some level, it is the hardest form of public speaking there is. Why do I say that? Because in most presentations, business presentations, your audience is sitting there thinking, oh my God, if this person just doesn't bore me to death, I'll love them forever. In most business conferences, speeches, events, panel discussions, if you get one chuckle, you're going to be in a 20-minute, 30-minute presentation. You're going to be the most entertaining speaker most people have seen all day or the whole conference. So the standards arguably are very low in most business communication, most presentations, most civic speeches, most politician speeches. People are just hoping you give them one interesting idea and don't bore them to death. When it comes to stand-up comedy, the standards are much higher. Quite often the standard is, you better make me laugh every 5 seconds or I'm going to be angry at you. That's a tall order. If you can meet that order, you're a great communicator. So I would urge you, you may have no desire to ever be a professional stand-up comedian, but if you have a chance to do a stand-up comedy class, perform it at open mic, take a course in improv, by all means, do it. Now, I apologize for not showing you video of this woman. What I've seen is she's funny. She's not afraid to sort of gently poke fun at the rich. And there's several lessons to learn here. So often people feel like, oh, I can't criticize anyone. Let me walk on eggshells. Let's not be different. If you look at most real estate video promoting houses, they all kind of look the same. Everything is great and beautiful and luxurious and extravagant and wonderful and awe-inspiring. It all sounds the same. So when this woman comes on and says, look how ridiculously big this closet is. This is where they're storing all their tax write-offs. It just gets a chuckle. It stands out as different. Great communicators understand it's not enough to speak clearly. It's not enough to have good eye contact. It's not enough to have good hand gestures. It's not enough to present the facts in a logical way. You have to be interesting. And one way of being interesting is being a little bit different, especially if there's a little humor. I've never seen anyone say, I hated the way that last speaker or that last TikTok expert made me laugh. Now, it's possible some humor can offend people. There's always a risk. That's true of anyone who has an interesting idea. I know I offend people from time to time right here on this show. And I would be surprised and frankly horrified if I didn't occasionally offend someone. I don't go out of my way to offend someone, but when you have interesting ideas that are different from what everyone else is thinking occasionally, you're going to offend people because some people don't like to hear anything that disrupts their status quo viewpoint of the world. So I do think that we can all learn from Brianna and what she's doing there. She's getting millions of views on TikTok. She is actually selling some houses. Now, sometimes it's possible to be funny and mock everyone in an industry, and other people like you, but the people in your industry hate you. Apparently, she's getting such an inflow of people who want to move to Florida. She's based in Florida, not surprisingly. She's getting such an inflow of people and leads coming in that some of it is generating actual sales commissions in her pocket. So good for her. Now she's also signed with a Hollywood manager. So who knows? She may find making videos is simply a more lucrative way for her to spend her time than showing people around home. Or she probably, I would suspect, will end up doing both and making a nice career for herself. So think about that. That's the real lesson here. And it's a lesson I need to take to heart more. I need to think about, how can I entertain you even more? How can I sprinkle in a little humor more from time to time? Because here's the thing, if someone's laughing, they're not sleeping. They're not falling asleep on you. If someone's laughing at something you say or something you're showing them, it means they're not going to another page on their phone and ignoring you and tuning you out. So that, my friends, is the power of humor. More in a moment. We'll be right back after this break. Want more? Grab my 5-book success library for $9.95 at tjwalker.com/books. It's the fastest way to level up your communication. Imagine being the most confident person in the room, whether you're on Zoom or on stage. That's what thousands of professionals are learning to do right now through my online communication courses. At Media Training Worldwide, you can access my complete training library on demand, affordable, and actually effective. Whether you're preparing for media interviews, client presentations, or TED-style talks, I've got you covered. Check it out. MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. You'll never wing it again. Want to advertise here? You better be legit. No crypto, no junk food, no supplements. Go to tjwalker.com/advertise. Issue 4, Utah Governor's Plea. Utah Governor Spencer Cox is asking Americans to turn down the political rage. 2 days after Charlie Kirk was shot dead on a college campus in his state, Cox urged, we can choose a different path. According to the Wall Street Journal, Cox has built his career on bipartisan bridge building. His Disagree Better campaign, launched with Colorado's Democratic governor, aims to replace toxic rhetoric with respect. And to be clear, he is the Utah governor, the Republican Utah governor. Cox admits the incentives in politics push leaders toward division, not dignity, but he insists young Americans create a culture very different than what we're suffering through right now. What's the bottom line here? What's the real message? Republican Governor Cox of Utah is showing what real leadership looks like. He's trying to diffuse tensions in America. He's saying, let's calm down. He's suggesting you put down your phone and go spend time with your family. Go for a walk. This is great advice. This is exactly what more Americans need to hear right now. Not confirmation bias of, see, I told you those guys were awful and we got to go get them. Let's dig a little bit deeper here. So He says quite rightly that politics rewards rage. He's specifically trying to appeal to young Americans. And to his credit, he's not out getting clicks. He's not out raising money for his political action committee, talking about how he's going to go hunt people down who he thinks are inherently or innately violent. He's doing exactly the opposite. It's a shame more of our leaders in the United States don't follow the example of Republican Governor Spencer Cox of Utah. So I do want to give him credit. Quite often it's so easy to say all politicians are bums and all politicians are just selfish and trying to slither their way up the political pole, willing to say anything or do. And it's not true. And that's not a partisan thing. Those of you who watch this know I occasionally say good things about Democrats, and I am occasionally, as of today, right now, for example, saying good things about this particular Republican, this Republican Governor Spencer Cox of Utah. There is something a little bit different about the brand of Republicanism in the state of Utah. Now, it's heavily Republican. It's a heavily Mormon state, and Mormons do traditionally align themselves very, very heavily with the Republican Party. In fact, there at one point in the history of that religion and the politics of Georgia, you could actually be excommunicated for supporting equal rights for women. But let's get back to today in 2025. Governor Spencer Cox is doing the right thing. He's asking people, take a breath. Let's de-escalate. Let's really ask ourselves, what kind of a country do we want to live in? And I should note, it's not just Governor Cox. It's the former Governor Huntsman, known as a real moderate. Mitt Romney, who actually won the Republican nomination for president in 2012, was the leader of the entire Republican Party, announced himself as severely conservative in that campaign, if you remember that from back 13 years ago. So he's by no means a liberal or even a moderate in terms of litmus test political issues. But Mitt Romney, by temperament, is someone who looked at facts, looked at all sides, did not instantly try to escalate tensions and hatreds among people. And I do think Mitt Romney is someone I do have a lot of respect for. And he felt like there was no longer a home for him in the modern Republican Party. And that and the fact that his age, he did ask himself, do I at 77 want to be in the Senate? Because that's how old he would have been if he'd run for reelection the last time up. And he decided to not run for reelection. He had concluded his level of public service in his lifetime and wanted to spend more time with his grandkids. And I'm sure after things like what happened in his state of Utah this week, I'm sure he's happier than ever not to be in public life. Romney famously, during his last few years in the Senate, when he was courageous enough to vote to impeach a criminal president, had to spend $5,000 a day for his own personal security guards because he was getting so many death threats. So that's the real problem we do face in America. I have a lot of sympathy for anyone in public life these days, and not just elected officials, but content creators who have a lot more following than I do. Once you get into the millions of views, the number of hate messages and worse and threats you get on a daily basis can be overwhelming. And typically, people just ignore it. But after the most recent incident in Utah, a lot of people are not going to be ignoring it for quite some time. So what else can we really learn from this Utah governor? Don't take the cheap way. The easiest way to get more attention on your Twitter X account, on your Facebook account, is to double down on outrage, to double down on anger. You will get more attention. The algorithms for all these social media companies are programmed for maximum engagement. And the easiest way to get more engagement is to preach hatred, to preach anger, to say, look, These people you and I don't like already, it turns out they're 1,000 times worse than we said. Look at this horrific thing they did. Let's all hate them even more. That is the easiest way to get more clicks, get more ad dollars, get more fans, more followers, more shares, and it is corroding society. And I respect and want to applaud Republican Governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, for using his bully pulpit at this moment when the whole world was looking at him to at least attempt to diffuse anger. I don't know that he succeeded. There's so many other loud voices out there, but he did what he could do. When he had the spotlight, he did the absolute best he could. And that's really all you can ask from anyone. Filtered is brought to you by the following. You don't need a new degree. You don't need another expensive coach. You need the right communication habits, and I'll teach them to you in just a few minutes a day. At MediaTrainingWorldwide.com, I've created the most comprehensive library of online communication and personal development courses anywhere. You'll learn public speaking, media training, persuasion, executive presence, and more. These are the same methods I've taught to world leaders, but now they're affordable and accessible to everyone. You can start for free and upgrade anytime. Go now to MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. Confidence isn't a personality trait, it's a skill and it's trainable. Most people can't afford a full-time coach, and even if you could, good luck finding one who's available when you need them. That's why I created the TJ Walker AI clone. It's built on my 40 plus years of real world coaching and training. You get my exact advice, style, and frameworks instantly. Ask it how to handle a tough question, get feedback on your elevator pitch, rehearse your next big talk. This is the next generation of communication coaching. It's smarter than an app, more personal than a course, and always ready. Start using it today at tjwalker.ai. You'll wonder how you ever did without it. Want to become a Issue 5, Sleep Studies. A landmark study using biodata from 88,000 people finds that poor sleep links to at least 172 diseases. Wow, 172 diseases. That's bizarre. The research published in Health Data Science shows risks extend far beyond fatigue. People who stayed up past 12:30 a.m. had a 257% higher chance of liver cirrhosis. Erratic bedtimes raised the likelihood of gangrene by more than 260%. Researchers stress it's not just about hours slept, but regularity. Sleep regularity is overlooked, said Chengfeng Wang, the study's senior author. It's time we broaden our definition of good sleep. Okay, what's the real message here? If you're not getting a great night's sleep on a regular basis, you're increasing your odds of getting 172 different diseases. So many people waste time chasing this supplement, this pill, this hack. Get a good night's sleep. Go to bed at the same time every night. Don't spend the last 2 hours juicing your brain with anger online. Turn off the phone and go to bed early tonight and every night. Let's dig a little bit deeper here. The study tracked, as I told you, 88,000 people. I certainly knew that poor sleep was linked to a lot of problems. I had no idea it was 172 diseases. Now, I'm not going to tell you I know why late bedtime is related to liver cirrhosis. I mean, I could certainly guess that if you're not going to bed till 2 a.m., chances are you're partying, drinking, you're having another 6-pack of beer or something. That would certainly increase the odds of liver cirrhosis. But gangrene, that is to me truly bizarre. Now, I'm someone who spends a lot of my time thinking about and actively working on how to get a better night's sleep. And it's difficult in our culture. You get people laughing at you. Oh, look at the old man going to bed early. You're mocked, you're ridiculed. It's not macho. We live in a culture that still brags about, yeah, I pulled another all-nighter, and I was up partying till 2, and I was at the meeting at 6 a.m. You can get away with that as a teenager, college kid, maybe in your 20s, but it does catch up with you. I believe the new badge of honor really should be bragging about your sleep score. I have a sleep score. I use an Aura ring. I can show you my sleep score now, but I'm using my phone to broadcast live on TikTok, so I can't. But I believe I had a 91 sleep score last night. Now, I did only have, I believe, 7 hours and 31 minutes sleep, but I went to bed on a Saturday night at 9:30 and got up at 5:30. And yes, I was up for a little while and didn't fall asleep instantly. All the research I've ever read, when I look at the summary data, the metadata of all the research, it suggests most human beings really are at optimum levels of alertness, health, getting not 7 hours of sleep as you often hear, not even 8 hours, but 8.5 hours sleep. Can this vary? Sure. But I do want to really stress this message to you. If you're spending, you're getting up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym because you think that's going to make you healthy, and you're not getting in bed till 11 p.m., you're destroying your health. 6 hours of sleep isn't, oh, DJ, I can operate fine on that. If you're using an alarm clock, you're not getting enough sleep. Sorry. If you need an alarm clock to get up, that means your body wants to be sleeping more. Now, I'm a firm believer. Some of you are going to say, well, that's not practical. You got to decide what's practical for the long run, living the longest. I personally do not use an alarm clock unless I absolutely have to catch a plane and I know I'm going to have to get a slightly different sleep schedule. I want my body to get as much sleep as possible. And you should want that for yourself as well. So maybe we all need to spend less time looking for this perfect vitamin pack and this creatine mix and this testosterone shot and this perfect new fruit from Tahiti that's supposed to have magical powers. There is a magical power that will make you substantially healthier, that will reduce your chances of getting 172 diseases. It's called a good night's sleep. Now, as the author pointed out, it's about regularity. And I fight this battle with members of my own household. This idea that, oh, it's the weekend, I can stay up late and sleep in late. It's really bad for your body. It's bad for your health. Because if you stay up late Friday night, sleep late Saturday, stay up late Saturday night, sleep late Sunday. Now it's actually much harder to get to bed when you should be getting to bed on Sunday night. So you fall asleep much later. Now you got to use that alarm clock for Monday morning. Now you're starting your week when you ideally should be at your most productive, whether it's for school, whether it's for business, whether it's for working on your startup. You're starting off at the starting line at a deficiency. You're starting off tired. You're starting off with your brain not functioning. If you were starting an auto race, would you want to start with your car on empty, or your car where for every 5 gallons of gas, there's a gallon of water put in there? That is essentially what you are doing if you don't have a good night's sleep. And I understand it's not sexy. If you're young and single, it's not going to be sexy to tell your date, hey, I'm having a great time, but I really need to be asleep by 9:30. So let's wrap it up here. I understand that doesn't make you popular, man or woman, but it is what makes you most productive. It is what makes you healthier. So I would urge you, look, I was young and single once, okay? I get it. But for anyone who is not young and single, if you're middle-aged, if you're older, ask yourself, what's the worst thing that would happen if instead of watching another 2 hours of Netflix, I just turned off Netflix, turned off the TV, turned off my cell phone, turned off my iPad, read a paper book for half an hour, and fell asleep at 9:30 or 10. Here's what I think is a summary of the absolute best advice you can get on sleep, which is to think, what time do you need to wake up in order to get to your job, get to school, get to whatever response, take care of you? What time do you have to wake up? Now, let's back up 9 hours from there. So if you have to get up, let's say it's 7 a.m., then 9 hours before that would be 10 p.m. Why do I say 9 hours? Because you want a half an hour to be able to brush your teeth, nighttime routine, read as I do, so that you can actually fall asleep 8.5 hours before you need to get up. So that would be 10 p.m. So at 9:59, are you scrolling through emails and text and looking at news stories about assassinations? Are you doing that? Well, that's going to mess up your sleep. You're not going to be able to sleep for the next hour if you do that. So the best practice, which I try to follow, is turn off your cell phone 2 hours before you're going to sleep. What, TJ? That's crazy. I couldn't do that. I'd rather take a pill. I'd rather chop off my left arm. Well, if you want a good night's sleep, it's the best thing to do. Speaking of chopping off your left arm, again, according to this study of 88,000 people, that may be what happens if you don't get enough sleep, because you dramatically increase your chances of getting gangrene if you don't get enough sleep. Here's the other problem with sleep. It's just much harder for people to make money off of you. If I'm a pharmaceutical company, I'd much rather sell you a pill that you've got to get a prescription for. So the insurance company, your doctor, all these other hands make money off of it. And I get this recurring revenue forever. It doesn't matter if the pill actually jumbles my brain or destroys my ability to get REM sleep or deep sleep. If I'm a pharmaceutical company, I'd much rather you take a pill. I can market that pill. I can put advertisements for that pill in the Super Bowl and the World Cup and your local news. The TV stations make money. Everybody's making money. You simply deciding, I'm going to turn off my phone and go to bed earlier tonight. Nobody makes money on that. And that's why you're not being marketed that idea. And that's a big problem. So that's in part what I'm trying to counter here is there's a lot of things that affect our life and our health where it's not that we don't know the right information, but we're not getting reminders. We get reminders every day. Take this pill, this pill, this pill, drink this tea, all these products to help us get a good night's sleep, when really what we need to do is make a fundamental decision. Turn off the phone. Turn off the TV. Go to bed earlier. Go to bed early enough so that you don't have to use an alarm clock and that you actually wake up feeling great, and to do it more or less the same time every day. Now, there are products that can be useful. I'm not going to sell you any products today. I personally do use a white noise machine. I personally have a sleep mask. I personally sleep with earplugs. I personally, and I'm not recommending this to others, there's some medical debate on whether it's a good idea. I do personally use mouth tape. It prevents snoring. I also use a snore guard. But what I like about the mouth tape, and I do just enough, I can still breathe if I want to, but the default is to sleep through my nose, which means my mouth doesn't get dried out. I'm less likely to wake up and need a glass of water, if for no other reason. That's why I'm such a huge fan of mouth tape. But I'm not telling you to tape your mouth shut. There's some controversy about it within the medical community. I'm not here to give you medical advice. But there certainly are some products you can buy, and I'm not selling any of them today. I mean, blackout blinds. I just got new blackout blinds in our bedroom in our new home. And even though it doesn't really have an impact on me because I wake up before the sun comes up, it is helpful for my wife. So take a look at investing something in products to help you sleep. My advice as a non-doctor, Make the pills, potions, the supplements, the prescriptions your last choice, not your first choice. More in a moment. We're going to hit our grab bag section. Imagine having a communication coach who never sleeps. Meet your new secret weapon, the TJ Walker AI clone. Go to tjwalker.ai and start getting custom coaching 24/7. No scheduling, no hourly fees. I've trained presidents, prime ministers, and Fortune 500 CEOs. But the same exact communication I've delivered to world leaders is now available to you online, anytime at MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. Whether you're speaking on camera, pitching a client, or handling a crisis, you need these tools. These aren't fluffy motivational videos. They're practical, battle-tested techniques to help you speak clearly, competently, and persuasively. Go to MediaTrainingWorldwide.com and take your communication to the next level. Now it's time for the grab bag section of the show, wrestling over Charlie Kirk's legacy. Charlie Kirk's assassination has sparked debate over his divisive words and political style. Supporters praise him as a youth leader. Critics cite remarks that demean Martin Luther King Jr., George Floyd, Islam, Jewish donors, and Democratic women. Martin Luther King, according to him, was awful. Floyd was a scumbag. Islam is not compatible with being a good American citizen. He blamed Jewish donors for pretty much everything. And so there's a real mixture going on here. I think it's fine, and I think it's fine to express sorrow to any individual who's been assassinated with their family. I'm not in favor of assassination. I don't know many people who are. So I certainly have sympathy for his family. I think this is corrosive to the United States and our political culture, our culture in general. I do think some people are using this and exploiting this, because I well remember just earlier this year where Democratic members of the legislature in Minnesota were assassinated. And I don't remember this canonization of them. I don't remember the flags being half-mast everywhere in the country in every state capital. I don't remember them being lauded as heroes. I kind of remember a couple days news coverage. I certainly don't remember this being seen as like one of the worst days of our country's history, the way I do with Charlie Kirk. So I would like a little bit of fairness here. It seems like for some reason, Kirk's life is seen as more valuable than when Democrats are assassinated, and Democrats who are actually in the arena, in public office, casting votes, crafting legislation. Nothing wrong with someone wanting to have the career of being an influencer and an activist. I'm not in public office. But I do think that there's a higher realm as far as what society should be respecting and honoring when tragedies occur. We rightfully mourn when presidents of the United States are assassinated. And when Democratic lawmakers were assassinated, seemed like a couple-day story. I certainly don't think it was a good thing when Republican members of Congress were fired on, and Steve Scalise almost lost his life, the congressman. That was horrific as well. But I'm troubled by this idea that, for example, Congresswoman Pelosi, the Speaker Pelosi's house was entered by a madman. An assassination attempt was made on her husband. He was severely injured and beaten. And what was the response in our broader culture? Were there flags flown? Were there all these thoughtful moments? No, we had the President of the United States laughing about it, making fun of it. We had numerous political actors mocking that as funny. So We're going to have to all take things down a notch, I believe, but we're going to have to somehow play fair too. This idea that anytime there's violence, we're just going to say it's the radical left, even though there's not a single shred of evidence, isn't going to work anymore. The idea that a centrist can be assassinated, as happened in the case of Minnesota, and ho-hum, not a story, but someone who has extreme right-wing beliefs, someone who constantly mocks and ridicules as un-American, non-white people, people who don't share his same gender and sexual orientation or religion. The idea that someone can mock those people as not real Americans, someone who can actually endorse violent takeover of our Capitol on January 6th and the deaths that occurred from that makes someone more sympathetic to national mourning. There's something wildly out of whack with that. In other news, President Trump did in fact blame, related news, I should say, blamed the radical left for Kirk's killing and vowed a crackdown on critics and institutions. If it's one thing you can give credit to Donald Trump, is he's amazingly consistent. You always know that he's going to do the exact wrong thing, predictably, when there's any kind of a crisis. To say that the killer of Charlie Kirk was a part of the radical left, let's look at some facts here, especially if you're outside the country and not familiar with some of the nuances of our politics. The killing occurred in Utah, which is one of the most Republican conservative states in the entire country. The killer was brought up in a Republican household, which is not surprising considering virtually every Mormon was or is a Republican. Those of you not familiar with the Mormon religion, it's kind of an offshoot, a newer branch. They do consider themselves a part of the Christian faith and have very traditional conservative views that align with the Republican Party. This young man, and he was a young white man, and with a name like Tyler, that's about as white and traditional as it gets. And there's absolute zero evidence he even ever heard of the radical left, much less was a part of it, or a part of some cell, or had been influenced by George Soros or anyone else. Now, to be fair, he was not a registered member of the Republican Party. He was not a registered member of MAGA. He was not particularly political. There's no record of him having voted. There's no record of him being a member of a political party. But when you look at the culture he was a part of, he's in a Republican state. You look at the university where this happened. I'd never heard of this university. This is a university seen as very, very conservative, Republican, majority Republican enrollment there. If this were Oberlin College, a well-known sort of left-wing school, maybe you'd have a point. If it were even Columbia University, maybe you could say, some sort of left-wing forces infiltrated this kid when he was in New York City. But he wasn't in New York City. He was in an obscure, semi-rural part of Utah, one of the most conservative places where, to my knowledge, there's never been even a sighting of anyone associated with the radical left. So that's what I find troubling here, is people just making up stuff. Now, you can be centrist, you can be right of center, you can be left of center. You can be a libertarian. There's a lot of different positions on an ideological spectrum in America, where you can be an honest person and an honest purveyor of serious conversation, debate, and topics. But to just make up stuff, to say, okay, something bad happened, I'm now going to completely make up a series of facts to make somebody completely unrelated over here appear to be guilty. That's not what democracy is based on. It really can't survive that. That's not standard operating procedure in a well-functioning democracy. Unfortunately, it's the first thing that our current administration latches onto. And this targeting of George Soros with the RICO Act is just one of the most despicable, demagogic, authoritarian moves possible. And it's what Viktor Orban, the Hungarian dictator, right-wing authoritarian, that's his rise to power. And increasingly, we're seeing a lot of Americans say, let's be more like Hungary. The fact that Hungary's gross domestic product is low and the average person in Hungary is poorer than the average person in Mississippi, that's the price I'm willing to pay if we can make our country more white and more Christian. It's a bit sad, this idea of bashing George Soros, who's one of the most generous philanthropist and most successful capitalist in the history of the world. The only problem with George Soros, as I see, is we don't have thousands of George Soroses around the world, because that truly would make things a lot better. That concludes our big grab bag section here. As I mentioned to you at the beginning of this show and every show, this show is about looking at the top stories of the day and then filtering it through the lens of communication skills and personal development skills. It is a Sunday morning, and I'm hoping you're spending not just time with me, and I do appreciate you spending time, but I'm hoping you're spending time doing something fun, something you enjoy, something with friends or family, something good for your body. As soon as I finish, I'm going to hop up here, and I'm wearing shorts. All I have to do is change my jacket and shirt. I got to hop up, put on a t-shirt, and I'm going to go play pickleball. And then I'm going to go swimming. And then I'm going to go have more relaxing family and friend time. Oh, I see our friends on TikTok have just signed up. I've got to tap my phone so they can stay with us. Sorry, TikTok friends. Thanks for joining us. So I'm a big believer that it shouldn't just be for the weekends. It should be every day. Exercise is critically important. Oh, TJ, I'd love to. I'm too busy. You're not too busy to exercise, because if you care about time, daily exercise, eating well, and yes, getting sleep can be the difference between dying at age 40 and dying at age 95. So I do exercise every day, in part because I care about my time. I want more time living. I can't count on my AI brain bringing up my consciousness. Maybe that'll be a common thing in 10 years, and my brain can be uploaded and I'll have a robotic body and can live forever. But I don't know if that's going to happen. And because of that, that's why I take time for exercise seriously. It's just as important as time making money. It's more important, frankly, because you can't make any more money if you're dead. You can't make any more money if you've had a stroke and your brain isn't working properly. So if you care about money and you care about time, then I urge you, you've got to really care about exercise on a daily basis, but certainly on a Sunday morning, it's crucial. So I'm going to be spending my time today doing some meditation. I do Wim Hof breathing exercises. I'll be spending time in the community pool, the hot tub, pickleball, laughing and having fun with friends too. So I hope most of your day is devoted to some form of exercise, some form of entertainment, some form of socializing. So I'm going to sign off online now. I hope you can as well. I appreciate you spending time with me if you're watching this, but please, let's follow what Governor Cox of Utah says. Let's get offline and actually talk to real friends and family and people in our neighborhoods, especially today. I'm TJ Walker. Thanks so much for joining me. I do really appreciate you spending time with me. And I've been very listening to this on any podcasting platform. Follow the show, subscribe to it. Doesn't cost anything. If you're watching this on YouTube or any other social media platform, please leave a comment. Thanks. See you tomorrow.